Hi, you guys, and welcome back to the podcast.
We are the Carwells.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Sarah, and we are, as you know, Airbnb interior designers and investors. All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Catch Up with the Carwells. Today we have two very special guests with us, Brooke and Glendel. Brooke and Glendel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Yes, excited.
Absolutely. So to give our listeners a little bit of a backstory on you guys, and I'll have you guys introduce yourself in a moment, but Emily and I, got introduced to Brooke and Glendel as our mentees in our first ever round of The Space Between. No one's surprised. Emily and I got completely emotionally attached to all of our mentees, but specifically Brooke and Glendel held a special place in our hearts. When Emily and I first decided to launch the mentorship, we really wanted to focus on couples because that's very reflective of mine and Emily's Airbnb journey and the relationship that these two have and their vision for their future and everything related to it. Just resonated with Emily and I on a level that we didn't expect when we launched the mentorship. So for you guys, for our listeners who are unfamiliar with who you are, why don't you give them a little bit of an elevator pitch of who you are, what you do, and how you got involved in Airbnb?
All right. First of all, thank you for having us. It's exciting. We've been listening and watching you guys' podcast since we got connected, and it's a humbling opportunity to be here. So we appreciate it a lot. Brooke and I, we've been together about 2 years. I've been in construction, doing remodels since 2005, so almost 20 years now, and flipping since 2015. So that we have a lot of the real estate background, and Brooke joined me, second part of 2021. So we are full time. This is what we do. So joining, your guys' mentorship was just the right call for us, and we'll talk about a little bit more about it during this podcast. But that's a little bit about who we are. So.
That's amazing. Sorry, I thought you leaned forward. Do you have something to say before I go on a tangent?
No, it's just the usual. My animals are trying to climb all over me while I'm on a call, which is just like standard. Brooke and Glendel are used to that at this point.
Yeah. Our dogs are hiding.
Yes. Well, I would say, knowing you guys personally at this point and rehearing your story all over again, it makes sense why you decided to explore stepping into the short-term rental space, because you guys have the skill set for it, right? You guys make a good duo that has skills that lend well towards something like this. But before we dive into your journey and before we kind of get to know you guys better, or our listeners get to know you guys better, why don't we start the same way we start every single Airbnb episode, with an Airbnb horror story. And of course, it doesn't have to be Airbnb related, but just a failure that you have experienced on your entrepreneurial journey.
We kind of have two. He has one for like the flipping, and then I recently have one for the Airbnb side. When we got the questions, we were like, I don't know, like Airbnb's been so good, like everything's smooth, until yesterday. We had a tight turnaround. Like someone was checking out and then someone else was checking in on the same day. And we've been doing some of the cleanings ourselves. So we got there, we were kind of just moseying around, cleaning, and I probably still had like an hour left to clean. And it was 2:00, and I noticed someone walking up our driveway, and I was like, oh my gosh, that kind of looks like the next guest that's about to check in at 4 p.m. And I was like, why is he here so early? And and Glendel already left. So I called him really quick, like, what is happening? This looks sketch. So I called him, and there was a little bit of a language barrier because they spoke Spanish, and then he wasn't there, so he speaks Spanish and Portuguese. So I called him, like, maybe it was a language barrier, like this time, So he ended up, like, I don't know, they ended up waiting in their cars for about 30 minutes until I was done cleaning. So the whole time I'm inside cleaning, I can see them in their cars, just kind of like watching me. And I'm like, kind of like, okay, do I let them in? It's already 2:00. Do I charge them? Because it's kind of like an early check-in. Do I just running, everything through my head. And I walked outside and I'm like, all right, it's clean. Like you can come in. And I was like, first, like, let me get some kind of like, I don't know, like, where did you, like, there was some kind of miscommunication. Like, where did you see that you could come in at 2:00? So he showed me his phone, and sure enough, it said like he could check in anywhere from 11 till 1. It's like, all right, like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But we found out, error on my part, when I accepted the booking, they requested to check in anywhere from 11 to 1. And I just thought it was like a normal check or a normal booking request. So I just hit accept, and I accepted that they could come in earlier than the normal check-in. Didn't know that was a thing on Airbnb because I'm so new to it, but apparently you can do that. So they're still staying there. They have, understanding, and I was very apologetic, and we end up like they could stay a little bit later on their checkout time. So hopefully we still get a good review, but we'll find out. Just a little miscommunication.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing either. I have literally, in my 4 years of hosting, have never run across that issue and didn't even know that you could, like, that someone could request a specific check-in time. So even though
Okay,
you're
cool.
new,
They send us a screenshot that says 11 a.m. check in.
We should ask Federico about that, because I've never heard about that either. Because like, I mean, sometimes we'll get people who will message us specifically and ask that, but that's very
like,
obvious when they're asking for that early check-in, late checkouts, things like that. But I had no idea that like when you're making your booking, you can request a specific check-in time. That's crazy.
Well, everyone learned from us. It doesn't.
You all have been warned, all of you listeners.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first request in Spanish, and of course I had left 5 minutes before that happened, and we're pretty close to finish the cleaning, but it was 2 hours prior to check in. So it was really, she was caught off guard, and she's by herself, and it's 2 gentlemen, they renting the place for the next few days. So
and while I'm cleaning, I'm already like worked up. Like I thought they were in the wrong, and I was like, man, they're gonna have parties. Like we've never had a party here. They're gonna, invite all their friends. Like I'm just thinking of every bad scenario, and they're probably the sweetest. So
you'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see.
And for me, we talk about this a little bit because I have the rehab, background. We had a couple of situations in this house that we finished right now, even on the house that we had that launched. We ended up renovating the bathroom and the kitchen. So we went to replace the tub that has been there since they constructed the house in the 1950s or something like that. There was a family of a young, mice, I guess, living underneath the tub. And then that was a big surprise for me, for us actually. And this house here that we are right now, we had a plan to build the back of the house when we got it, but I didn't realize how bad it was. And those are the things that, on the construction standpoint, it's like $5,000 to $10,000 extra on the budget if you don't know what you're doing. And I try not to relay this information to Brooke because it's a lot of the logistic, a lot of the things that I just have to deal with it. And we did, and it's looking really sharp. We'll be able to see in a couple of weeks. We're in the final stages right now, so excited about this one too.
GC drama and just building drama in general gives me some type of anxiety. Because it's big numbers you're dealing with. Like, those things add up. There is no doubt about it. They can kill a deal with things that you don't anticipate.
Especially on these old houses, because I feel like a lot of us, like, our strategies are to buy kind of older projects that do need a little bit of work, because maybe somebody who's looking for a family home isn't necessarily looking to put that work into a house. So we're looking at these older houses that need a little bit of work, and then you find mice under the bathtub and things like that, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
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 I have a little bit of an adjacent story or a quick story around mice specifically, since that's what we're talking about. The first property that Ethan and I purchased, we did all of the rehab ourselves with my dad handling all of the stuff that we didn't know how to do. But a portion of that rehab was in the basement. We had 2x2 ceiling tiles, right? Just, the regular, like, old school ceiling tiles. And so we were replacing those ceiling tiles with, like, that little vinyl liner that looks like a, more high-end version of this drop ceiling. And so while I was installing these vinyl liners in the basement, especially right along like the support beam that went down the middle of the bedroom and along the edge of the walls, I stuck my fingers up, like pushed the ceiling tile up to push the vinyl into the drop ceiling. And when I pushed my fingers up between where the drop ceiling tile goes and the actual wall of the upstairs, I all of a sudden felt like all this like little like gritty stuff, and I was like, what in the world? And I like take my finger and I like scoop it out onto the floor, and it's mice bones.
Bones.
Bones! There's like little mice bones that fell down, and I was like, to this day I think about it, just makes my skin crawl all over again.
Oh my. I was expecting like fur or something, but bones is kind of disgusting. Well, yeah, all of it's sick, but bones is worse. Ew.
Yeah, that is very gross.
Yeah. It's a grimy job. So, these rehab houses, you just never know what you're gonna come across.
Yeah, this one that we're in, another rodent story.
Oh yeah.
So we're living in it, like literally just a mattress and our tools, and we hear like a few times a night of like a little, sounds like a mouse, which I think there was, I don't know how many, a lot. Yeah, there ended up being a lot because we set out traps, but there was probably one that was like, we call it a beaver. I don't know what it was. It sounded like a giant animal, and it's like crawling, like trying to crawl. You can hear it scratch. You can smell the dirt. Like we're sleeping and I can smell this like animal trying to climb outside, like underneath our house.
No.
This is bad. Like I'm ready for, the cute stuff.
We did get lucky on the first launch, and then the house got booked back to back. So we had to move into a construction zone with no kitchen, no bathroom. We had just the toilet and flooring, and not to put mattresses down. And the first 2 nights it was really hard to sleep because at night it was right underneath the bedroom. We could hear everything. So, it's taken care of now. But
yeah.
I will say I think that's kind of a uniquely Midwest experience, only because we've like invested with people that are out in California, and when we were working with TechVestor, they were talking about like a project that they had out here, and they were like, there was like a major squirrel problem, and we didn't know that you could have a squirrel problem, like that squirrels could even get into your house. And I'm like, yeah, and especially in the winter, like they're trying to get in everywhere that they can.
Yeah.
And so you'll hear like in this old house that I used to live in, like you hear like raccoons in the attic or all these things. And so I think it's a little bit uniquely Midwest that we have those experiences.
There's issues,
Yeah.
for sure.
No, thank you. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's kind of a rite of passage of dealing with these chaotic things. And I mean, I love the fact, like, I don't love it for you, but I love that you get to be miserable, or misery loves company with us, in the sense that you have lived in these construction zones, because that is not for the faint of heart.
Like, no.
Before we even get into more of y'all's business, I mean, talk through that. Like, what are some pitfalls of actually living in the construction zone? Because Emily and I have done it as well, and we have never, like, dove into that topic whatsoever.
Oh, man. I hate, like, dirt and just, I want my hands to be clean, and I want my feet to be clean. My feet, I always have socks on, like shoes, whatever. The amount of dust, like drywall dust, I just slowly had to like be okay with it. Yes, I'll pick that up without my gloves, or yes, it's just, You get used to it, I think.
Yeah. I think for us, it is hard. It is not something you want to do like long term for sure. We're doing right now, and we're doing what we need to do just to to see this. I guess we have a vision of what's going to be ahead. It's just something that's temporary. It helps us a lot because
that helps. Like
to see the vision, especially with the feedback that we have in the first launch. It just pushes to get this one done a lot faster. But it is really hard. And like I said, we didn't have kitchen, we didn't have sink.
Showers.
We shower outside.
Both of we're still showering outside.
Yeah.
And it's October in Indiana, and it's getting a little cold.
Yeah. So. I think that's one of the biggest things for us is just the shower situation. But we had a couple nights we sleep on our first launch house. We have family and friends. Sometimes we go there, but we're doing what needs to be done. So
it's sacrificing. It's definitely not like long term. I do not want to do this long term, but for a month or two, I'll it's okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it's commendable from our perspective as well, just because it is really the fastest way to get this ball rolling. Like when you are not carrying 2 mortgages at the same time and you're stressing yourself out additionally with this expensive thing that you're trying to get off the ground, like it is a lot of times a necessary evil. And most people don't want to go through that trudge of living in a construction zone. And it's exhausting, right? It's like, it's not only that you're living in something that is like inherently uncomfortable by itself, but you're getting this business off the ground, and so there are a million things happening in your brain at the same time that you are surrounded by chaos in your environment. And so like for me as an interior designer, I like thrive in an organized environment, right? Like I like knowing all of these like little decisions throughout the day that are decided for me, right? Like knowing where I'm taking a shower, like knowing where I'm cooking breakfast, like knowing where my desk is for the day, like all of that stuff. When you're living in a construction zone, you have to like decide on where all of those things are going to happen, and then they're going to change frequently throughout the process. And so you get like decision fatigue on top of the enormous amount of decisions that are new decisions in making like for this business that you're trying to get started. And so it's just this mental uphill awful battle at the beginning, but it's totally worth it on the back end.
Worth it for sure.
Yeah, I feel like even it's never actually done, because when one project gets done, you move on to the next project, and so it's not done until you're moving out and you're like, oh wow, it looks so nice now, can I just like stay here and chill? But I tell Sarah all the time, by the time I got done with my project, like that last 10%, by the time I was done, I was like, get me out of this house. Like I hate it so much, I don't want to be here anymore. And now all I want to do is go back, because I like look back on it and I love it. But at the time I was like, somebody get me out of this dang house, because I'm sick of looking at all of the things.
Yeah,
that's how we feel too. We've been listening to you guys' podcast for a while, and there's one episode that Sarah mentions about the lake house had one night available, so you and Nathan got in a car and drove there, and so we had a couple nights available, so we blocked that for us, and we got back in there and we enjoyed the place. It's just, we look around and say, man, we create this, and it's really a good feeling to have, to go back and be able to enjoy the places that we create. So now we got to leave what we heard from you guys, and it's true. And everything that we'll be leaving right now after we launch this, it's pretty good to see that come for us, what we'll be hearing from you guys as well. So it's pretty fun.
Believe it or not, we weren't lying to you. Who knew?
Yeah, and we do make all these little subtle complaints, but it truly is a privilege to be able to like do that, right? It's a privilege to be able to go back and stay at these places while also creating experiences for other people. So I definitely, while we're in it, it's chaos and it's a lot, but afterwards we're like, oh wow, it's so great that we're even able to do it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I am a more confident human when I am in the spaces that I created too. It's like such a reminder, like it's almost like the immediate period after leaving the property, I want to like just like not think about all of the like building trauma that I just went through of like trying to get this property off the ground. And then you go back and you look at it with a fresh set of eyes and you're like, I did this. Like that's insane. And then you like flip through like the guest book and read all people's memories and their reviews, and I'm like, it's so much more than just a house. Like it really, the aftermath of once you get it up and running and people start enjoying it and you get to start enjoying it, like that's where the magic exists.
Yeah, that's exciting.
I want to switch a little bit, kind of talking about your fix and flip world and how you transitioned into short-term rentals, because being a part of that world beforehand gave you such a good set of skills to get into this. And it's such a nice thing to have, because I mean, speaking from experience, finding a good GC is like really hard. And so having that skill set on your own is so fantastic. But there are slight differences when you're thinking about a short-term rental project versus a fix and flip. So can you kind of talk about how you had to change your mindset towards like when you're putting together your short-term rental versus how you approached your fix and flips?
Yes, there's pros and cons for sure. For us, for me in particular, Brooke just joined a couple of years ago, so we see potential, right? We look at the deal. The acquisition part of things is very easy for us, but we tend to focus on properties that need a little bit more work, that we can, buy cheap and add a few things to it to, get the equity on the back end. So those are the things that, being on the flip side of things, fix and flipping, help us to look, on projects differently. One thing that, from the flipping perspective of things, I never had to do, to have guests come over. So a big switch and learning curve for me was the hospitality side of things. And, that's what, Brooke does most of the time. I chime in every now and then, but she takes care of that part very well. For us at this point, eventually we're going to have Federico, run. We are building our portfolio so we can pass along to him, so we can focus on acquisition, which is what we like. We like to look at properties and be able to, envision what we can do with it. We've been looking at different markets, and the good thing about going through the mentorship and kind of, branch it out a little bit more, but we can look in different markets and see truly that we can thrive in there, even not never being there ourselves, because we know the product that we're going to deliver. Now we have a result from our first launch. So it gives us a lot more confidence to go into a different market, knowing that we can really crush it. We're really surprised for the feedback and for the, the response we have in our, small market right now, where we are, almost 90% booked throughout September, October, and almost halfway through November already. So it's really exciting to be able to have that confidence to look at the market and be able to see ourselves, thriving on there as well. So from the flipping perspective, it's good because we look at projects we are willing to build. We are willing to do, we're focusing a little bit on more tiny homes, I would say, but we're not afraid to get bigger houses. But we can see what we can add a kitchen, what we can add, what we can add to the kitchen, what we can add a bathroom, what we can as a house addition, and all those things that most people are afraid of, I guess, or don't have the skills to do so. And, it's just, we have a little bit more, a bigger lack of, options when we see a project or an opportunity, I guess. But yeah, we learn a lot about the hospitality side, and we really enjoy it. We kind of met serving, so we see the hospitality side as more like a serving part of things. And we had a couple of people coming in town for funerals, so we had a DoorDash cart for them, and they were very thankful and very emotional about it, and on a hard time. So we learned that all that stuff from you guys, and we applied that to our own bookings, and it's our own way to serve, I guess, and we really enjoyed that part. So.
Well, and I love that you are confident in taking on bigger projects because you have that fix and flip background. Because, like, for example, for me, I have my dad who can help us do small rehabs, but I have very much avoided projects that need any amount of full gut of like a bathroom or a kitchen or things of that nature. And even with the houses that we do enter in, we see that they are houses that you could fix and flip, right? and we still don't take on like adding a bathroom or adding a bedroom or whatever the case may be, because that's just a bigger bite for us to do. It's like a next step for us. But when it comes to y'all's Airbnbs, and coming from a fix and flip perspective, they really are going to be a gift that keeps on giving, because you think about the thing that you are setting up that is going to give you cash flow out the gate. But when you think about the back end of it and having an exit strategy and taking that and either cash out refining, doing a HELOC, selling and reinvesting, whatever the case may be, you really are padding in a ton of equity into that property on the front end that is going to pay you on the back end. So I'm looking at y'all's strategy and I'm like, dang, the mentee becomes the mentor.
We really, like this property right now, we have 90 days by the time it's, hitting the market, but you see the before and after what we did in 90 days. Yeah, we're really pleased. We same thing with the first launch. We dream on the paper, we put it, the design on it, but when it came to life, it was just amazing. And this place here, we had in the papers before we closed, but now that's coming, to life is really something that we really proud of.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Yeah, I like that you said 90 days too, because I feel like you have this perspective where you understand how long things are going to take, and a lot of people are getting into this, and so they might go into a property and be investing in something and be like, oh, I actually have no idea how long this is going to take. Could take 6 months, it could take 8 months, whatever else, but you actually have a really well-rounded idea of what your timeline is going to look like because you have so much experience in it. And I think that gives you a leg up as well, because you're like, okay, I have to really hone in on these 90 days, but it is 90 days because I know how long each project is going to take.
Yeah, you're right on that. And, a lot of people, if they don't have the background, then they hire GC, and sometimes it takes a lot longer. We could have done this a lot faster. We finished 2 projects, in the middle of fixing this one. But after these 2 projects are done, we're going to hop on the third one, hopefully to be done before Christmas. And after that is just our own stuff. So we possibly could get a lot faster as well. So excited.
That's incredible. We've got a powerhouse over here. Boom. It'll be insane to see where you guys are at a year from now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, I want to shift gears a little bit into you being a part of the mentorship, because Emily and I have been very vocal about the fact that it took us 3 years of being in business to figure out the magic behind mentorship. This was also our first year investing in it and completely flipped our world upside down. So can you guys talk through why you had clarity on, reaching out for mentorship out the gate as opposed to just trying it yourself, and what kind of led you to the decision of deciding to invest in it before, as opposed to pouring that money into a property or something else?
Yeah, I think for me, like we mentioned, we watched you guys on TikTok, and for me, Sarah, how you describe or how you teach your followers was very understanding for me. Yeah, easy to digest, and I don't know,
Yeah, for us, I think it's the way you guys teach it's a lot easier to relate and to digest. Before we even connect with you guys, we are sharing, because we share, real estate stuff between ourselves, because first 2 years we were focusing on flipping, and then we start talking about short-term rental. Because of the flipping, because of the real estate investment part of things, I knew a little bit about STR. I was never into it. I managed 3 of them in 2019 for Investor in Town, and then they took over because I was focusing more on the rehab part of things. And then she shared one story of Sarah, and I shared the same story with her on the same day. And it's like, man, we really need to kind of see what this Sarah is all about. So at the same time, we're offering the mentorship, and we are shifting gears. We're looking to something that has more meaning other than just making money. I enjoy the rehab. I enjoy the flip. I've been doing for 20 years. But for Brooke, it was something, especially doing full time, it was a little bit less meaningful. Yes, we want to make money. Yes, we want to give a good product. But the STR made sense for us because we see a bigger impact. Sarah mentioned right now a few minutes ago about, we have, cameras and we see people, the cards that we leave, people leave the card back and, and being thankful for a place that we provide for them. And we see them enjoying the backyard, not that we creep on them, but we kind of see them, and it just brings joy to us to see that we provide a place that people can enjoy as much as we do. So I think at the end of the day, it has a little bit more meaning to us, the STR side of things.
Yeah, when we first met, I was working corporate, pharmaceutical world. That's all I knew. But then when we met and got married, I knew I wanted to quit that 9 to 5 and then work full time with him. And I grew up my dad was a construction worker. He built houses or flipped houses. So I was used to that. So I felt like I could be a really good piece for Glendel in that area. But for the a year, 2 years that I was out of my 9 to 5 and just kind of like Glendel's assistant, like, can you get me the wrench or whatever? Like, I just felt very useless. Like, to him, like, it was useful, but my purpose was, I was still trying to find my purpose. And then when, in the beginning of this year is when we kind of shifted focus, and when I started following you on your TikTok, and I really felt like we could kind of mesh our backgrounds together and do this full time. And it's been great because he does the construction part and he knows how to, knock down the wall or whatever. And I can help him in that, but I also love the designing part, and together we make a great like hospitality of, we've learned a lot from you guys, and, we love serving people, and we feel like that is our way of serving people. So
yeah.
I love that. Because I love that you said that, like, you find more meaning in it, because I remember in the call that we originally had with you before you guys joined the mentorship, that was something that you guys talked about, was like looking for more meaning and wanting like this to also impact the other people in your life. And it was just something that resonated with Sarah and I, because we feel the same way, right? We want to bring the people in our life into this and be able to give them that freedom if it's something that they choose. And so it was a part that we really connected with you, because we are looking for more meaning. We're not just, yes, the money is great, don't get me wrong, like we all love that part of it, but like we also look and see what people are using in our backyards, and then we get excited when people get excited about the things that they see when they come to our properties. And so I think that's why it worked out so well, and why we became so attached to you guys, is because you guys have such a similar mentality that we do.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And I'll echo that as well. I mean, we've talked, a ton with you guys and in other capacities about how this mentorship, before we decided to launch it, we were really worried about not finding aligned people, because the money that you can make from Airbnb is sexy. Like, there's no doubt about it. That's why people are interested in it. It is the most profitable real estate asset class right now. Like we don't want to discredit that huge blessing that it brings to us. But nonetheless, that also brings a crowd that Emily and I don't necessarily relate to, right? Like, we didn't get in it I didn't know that it had a lot of money attached to it. I just knew that, like, I could design, and then, I didn't want to get paid for a designer's salary for my entire life. And so really it was the heart for, taking vacations very, very seriously. Like, and it's not vacations necessarily that we host 100% of the time. Like, you guys talk about, having people who are coming in for a funeral, and having people who are coming in for these very serious moments in their life as well. Nonetheless, you are hosting without physically being there. And so that responsibility, in my opinion, cannot be taken lightly. Like, I hate when a vacation of mine is ruined because something wasn't thoughtful or there's an issue with the experience, and that just completely puts a wrench in that memory. So for us to have found people like you, and you echo kind of our mentality towards this back to us, I was like, Emily, I'm in love with these people. We are friends forever. But the space needs more people like you, where you see it as, a play for creating a better life for yourself, but also a play for how you can make other people's lives better as well. So I love that. I love that you guys see that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It truly is a place for longevity for hosts like you guys, because I mean, we saw tons of people get into this industry in the past few years that don't care about those things, and we see them falling off. And I think that's where the Airbnb bust kind of thing comes from. But then you get to hear
Mm-hmm.
success stories like your guys's with your property that you just launched, and you're like, okay, we see the success and we're moving on to the next one. And we're going to make it just as good, if not better, because you understand that that is the quality that you want to give to people, and it pays you back. Whether at the on the front end, it's so hard to see that it's going to pay you back, right? You're like, why
Mm-hmm.
am I going above and beyond? Why leave the gift card for the people? Why, like, we just got flowers for somebody's anniversary, why do those extra things? And then you see the review or somebody's so happy with it, and you're like, okay, no, I'm going to continue doing this. I want to do more for the next people. And that's why other people are
Yeah.
falling out, and you guys get to stay in the space and have longevity.
Yes, and thank you to you guys to teaching us this, and we definitely couldn't be as successful as we are in the last 2 months because the things we learned from you guys. Even the cleaners, we hired new cleaners, and they feedback from them is like, man, I never been to an Airbnb like you guys. You think about everything, and we had s'mores kit, and we have all the amenities, all the and the bathroom is loaded and everything. So it's fun to watch and see people enjoying the place and the feedback we get. And majority of it is because of what we learn, and we really learn a lot from you guys. So thank you.
Amazing. Well, we're happy to be those people for you. Selfishly, I love that we feel like we're making a positive impact on travel, because as we travel and everybody, all of you make the B&Bs better, then our stays get better as well. So it makes our
Yeah.
traveling a lot more fun. But I want to circle back as well on a point that you had where you were like, look, I was in corporate America. I wanted to step away from it. I wanted to come and work alongside him. Couples in general, you have one of two types of couple. Either one couple where, you've got a set of people who cannot get enough of each other and they want to spend every single second by each other. And then you have the couple that's like, if we didn't have the separation of work during the day, we would actually kill each other. And Emily and I are two people who really enjoy being around our significant others all the time. I always say that, like, if Ethan is away for 15 minutes, I'm just like, what am I supposed to do with myself? Where did my other half go? And so I see a lot of times in this space, this alignment with couples where you complement each other very well, and bringing this business to life. And it allows you to spend more time together. It allows you to align, visions together and build this thing together. So for you guys, I mean, now that you've been working side by side for a long period of time, is it something that is it living up to all of your expectations of going from being completely separate to together, or is it more difficult than you anticipated?
No, I love it. The moment we started talking or dating or, seriously dating, we've been connected 24/7. So it was no question that I was going to quit my job just to be with him. And there are times where it's like a little difficult, or maybe we don't like align, but we're big on communicating. So we'll communicate it out and it works, but we are very attached. So it's fun. It's fun working with your best friend and working with them, living with them,
I think any relationship, right? Business relationship and our relationship, of course. And I read a book called Good to Great. And in that book, they talk about, the bus. We know where our bus is going. We know the direction we want to go. And sometimes you have hard conversations because I have a different background. She has a different background, and we listen to each other. And we know that at the end of the day, we want the bus to continue to the same direction. And it's okay because those hard conversations, makes us better, as a couple, as a business. But yes, we do enjoy majority of the time. We have a very, it's fun. We really enjoy it. And I have no complaints. I think we are just looking forward for what's ahead and excited for the future. And it makes moments like this, living in a situation like this, worthwhile. because we know a year from now or 2 years from now. Our goal is 2 years, 3 years to get, in a position that financially better, but it's the journey, right? It's to be able to look and enjoy the moment that we're in right now, knowing that something better is coming. When you live the gap and again, like you suggested, the book very good too. If you haven't read it, just read it, the gap and again. So if you live on a gap, you're always going to be complaining. If you live in a gain, you always be thankful. And that's how we live. We know that we're very thankful for what we had, and we know that ahead there's bigger and better things coming. But we're excited and happy for where we are.
Yeah. I think it's special, like couples that really are aligned in that way, because all couples need to be aligned when they're in anything, right? Like to build a business, even if one of you only wants to build the business and the other one wants nothing to do with it, you have to be somewhat aligned in those decisions. But when you're doing it together, it feels like you can achieve so much more, and it's so much more powerful when both of you are like, no, we are 100% diving into this together. And I want Tyler to be able to like work with me every single day. And so when he's gone on his business trips, like I'm like, oh my gosh, can you just come home so we can like talk about what we want to do next? So yeah, I think it's a really powerful thing. And I do think it's a special level of crazy though. That we all have to live in.
We're crazy in love.
Yeah.
Capital C on that.
Yeah.
But I will say as well, I was kind of thinking about the fact that our premise for our mentorship, for our brand, for everything we talk about online always kind of relates back to time, right? And wanting to earn that time back with the people that we love. And so, a lot of people will focus on that financial freedom aspect of Airbnb. And for a lot of couples, yourselves included, me and my husband included, it's like you get significantly more time immediately when you start down this path of working on this project together. Like, even though you guys aren't at a point of where you want to be 2 years from now financially, and you're working your way towards that, you do get that time back now with each other, or you're no longer at a 8 hours a day corporate America gig. So I love that that's kind of even though you're in the trenches right now and you're living on a mattress in the floor of a construction zone, I would argue that in my case as well, doing that with Ethan, I would take that every single day of the week than being comfortable in an apartment but having to leave him 8 hours a day and spending more time with my coworkers than the man I'm in love with. So
for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun journey. Okay, so as we wrap up here, we're reaching 45 minutes, and Emily's forcing me to only have these at 45 minutes because y'all know that I could talk forever.
I have to cap things at some point, guys.
2 hours later, we're still talking.
This is not a happy hour? I don't know. But the last question we have for you as we wrap up here is, you've recently launched your first property on Airbnb, as you have mentioned already on this podcast. Can you talk about the process it took to get that going and how it's been going now that it's launched?
In the process, that was a primary home. I know you preach on that too. So whoever's listening and watching, if you have your own place and feel like it could be the primary, we did that. We started renovating the place before we decided to do STR. So we had the kitchen pretty much done, but the bathroom wasn't. And so the process, it was longer than we anticipated because there was a lot of missing parts, a lot of things to put together, like personal belongings. Right now we had 3 bedrooms, so we only Airbnb 2 bedrooms because we locked up 1 until we're ready. It's going to be available, the 3rd bedroom, at the end of the month. But it just logistically, there's a lot of moving parts when you're doing your primary. So it took us a little longer.
Yeah, I felt like it took forever because we were packing up and moving out all of our stuff. And we've lived there. I've had it since I was 22. So 10 years packing up and then trying to find a place for all that stuff. And then moving in all of our Airbnb stuff. It was like moving out and moving in. It was a lot of work, but worth it.
It was worth it, but it was a lot longer. Like the 10% that Emily mentioned today, like the last 10%, it took forever to do it. But once it launched, we were really excited, and the things that we learned from you guys and the mentorship was so powerful. Step by step that you start from week one to the end of it. We learned a lot from it, and be able to utilize and the things that we learn on the hospitality side of things. I think now that's launched, it's being very. We're anxious to start using it when we learned back in beginning of the year, and to be able to finally go back and watch some of the classes, and like, this is how we do it. This is how we do the automated message. That's stuff that we learn, and so we really we enjoying right now that that's launched. So
Yeah, and you guys mentioned that you're at about 90% occupancy through the fall months, which is insane. Um, like Emily mentioned earlier on the podcast, the vast majority of the market is talking about how we are going through an Airbnb bust. And I mean, as we talk about in the mentorship and of course online all the time, we do not feel like it's an Airbnb bust at all. It's just the market correcting because of operators like us forcing everyone to level up. And so I think you guys are such a good testament. I mean, you've got a lot working against you, right? You've got the Airbnb bust that is feeding everybody's brain with maybe this isn't the right time to get in. We're also dealing with an economy that is going into a recession and people are tightening their pockets, and all of these Airbnb markets are maybe more saturated than they were 3 years ago. And so you guys are starting your Airbnb at an interesting point. And so for you guys to kind of echo our experience of us just launching new properties as well in the last month or so, and having such success, I love seeing that it is replicatable and it is not something that is just something we're experiencing and we're kind of a fluke. It absolutely is something that other people still can get involved in. You just have to do it correctly. You have to do a great job. You have to offer a good experience. So
yeah, you have to stand out, and the hospitality is key.
And I'll add this too. The mentorship, we made such great friends. Besides, we have access to you guys, through the Discord, and we met so many good people throughout the mentorship, and so it's just not. It's easy to, when we have questions, to know there's people out there that are genuinely looking to help you, and any questions that we had, small or big, in somebody's eyes, we were able to get answers. And it's if somebody's on the fence about the mentorship, I would say just go for it, because we had a very good experience, and friends that will last a long time, I believe so. So
Yeah, I had someone reach out in one of the session that's going on now. Someone reached out and she's like, I noticed that you did the mentorship. Can you tell me a little bit more? Like, was it worth it? Like, I don't know if she was on the fence or she was just looking for more information. And I was like, girl, how many? I'm going to write this huge thing of like, yes, these are all the pros, and just do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. For our listeners, just know we did not bring them on to gas us up as much on this mentorship. I will take it.
It's a bonus.
It's music to our ears.
Yeah, I love that you guys connected with people in the class too, because I think that we thought that might happen, but until the in-person graduation, it was like not a tangible thing that we could see. And then we were able to see everybody like really making connections at the graduation. And that's the point. That's like, we want to create a room of people where you guys are all feeding off of each other, because of course we always want to be a resource for you, but everybody's journey is going to go in a different way and people are going to scale at different levels. And so having other people to be in the room with you and talk you through the process is so nice. And sometimes it's just nice to unplug from like your regular everyday people, because they might not get it. And so having like a group of people to go to and talk to about it is so important. So like, even like the people who are in the sessions now, they get to come and talk to you guys who have already gone through it, and the community just continues to build.
Just reach out.
Yes, absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm so glad we got to catch up on all of the success you guys are having as you continue building your Airbnb empire. For our listeners who were inspired by your story and want to keep up with you, where can they find you?
We have a Instagram. It's just started out, so it's not a lot, but it's vibe_vacations. You can find our house that's on there now, and it has our direct booking linked in there as well. And then I'm slowly putting some photos together for the house that we're finishing and living in right now. So
yeah, be on the lookout. A couple weeks, we'll be live. So
yeah,
Congratulations. That's amazing. For our
thank
listeners
you.
as well, as you know, in the bottom of the podcast and below the YouTube video, we will also tag all of their stuff so that you can go and click on it and give them a follow. And then Emily, do you want to wrap this up as you always do?
Yeah, we are at the Carwells on all social media. So if you guys are not following us there, but you're listening to our podcast, please go follow us on social media because we're way more active there. You get like once a week here from us, but we're on those all the time. And then our website is thecarwells.space.
Beautiful. Well, thank you guys again for joining us, and thank you to our listeners for listening to another episode of Catch Up with the Carwells. We'll
Thank
catch you
you.
next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.
bye.